But right now, let's welcome our first guest, Laurence Kotlikoff. Laurence Kotlikoff is a William Fairfield Warren Distinguished Professor, as well as a Professor of Economics at Boston University. He's also President of Economic Security Planning, a company specializing in financial planning software, whose websites include esplanner.com and maximizemysocialsecurity.com. He's the author or co-author of as many as 16 books, including the bestseller, Get What's Yours, The Secret to Maxing Out Your Social Security. His work has appeared in the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg, Forums, and other major publications. We're happy to have him back with us here on the Income Generation. Laurence, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me. Great to be with you.
You know, you did a great interview with CNBC just last month where you talked about the importance of financial defense for everyday investors. But you know, a lot of people are really not paying attention to financial defense for whatever reason. Is there something you see in the economy or maybe what's going on politically that would cause you to bring up that so important topic at this particular time?
Well, our entire fiscal operation is totally broke. The country is really in probably the worst shape of any developed country in the world. If you look at the different programs, Social Security is 32% underfinanced. It's 34 trillion in the red. The official debt's 20 trillion. Social Security's 34 trillion in the red. Medicare, Medicaid, these programs don't have enough funding going forward. Defense spending, it's great to have a huge military, but you got to pay for it. So you don't want to pay taxes, the voters, and they're getting taxes, their taxes cut, leaving bigger bills to future generations. So all this is going to blow up in baby boomers' faces down the road.
I know in addition to Social Security, you said that banking, taxes, and education all have to be revamped in this country. But do you think it's feasible? I mean, do you think it can actually happen as long as politicians are politicians?
Well, I think that, you know, the Democrats in particular need a platform that is different from what they've been saying for years. So, yeah, we need radical banking reform that actually will not produce a repeat of 2008, and Social Security reform that's progressive, that's going to secure the system. These can be Democratic positions, tax reform that actually is fair but also generates more revenue, which we don't have in either dimension. So education, probably kids all around the country get the same education because it will be uniform and online and free, provided by the federal government, and one-on-one because a kid would have a headset watching a screen for a good part of the day. So you could have equality of education to a large extent that we don't have. That could transform the future of the country. So there are many purple plans here. And if you go to the purpleplans.org, you'll see a set of reform proposals that I put together. Yeah, we don't have the luxury of being so political that we can't bring up new ways, dramatically new ways to do things going forward, because the country's in such a deep hole, and each party is deepening that hole when it gets into power, just to try and stay in power. Well, this is not going to work out for the baby boomers or for our kids. It's just a disaster path, waiting to happen.
Yeah, I agree. And Social Security is just one part of that problem. We need to take a commercial break. When we come back, though, I want to ask you about a comment you made where you said you wouldn't hesitate to call up executives at all the major Wall Street firms and complain that they're actually bilking investors with misleading and erroneous information. Stay with us. We'll be right back to get the answer to that question. But right now, it's time to welcome back Laurence Kotlikoff. Tell me what you meant by that statement with CNBC recently, where you said that you would not have a problem calling up any of the major Wall Street executives of major financial firms and discussing with them how they are bilking investors with misleading and erroneous information. What do you mean by that?
Well, Wall Street has a kind of bait and switch methodology of doing financial planning. They asked you how much you'd like to spend in retirement. When you throw up your hands, they tell you, well, you need to spend 80% of your pre-retirement income, which is a target that's too high. And then they say, well, you're saving down here, you're trying to get here, you can't make it unless you buy our high yield mutual funds. And by the way, your probability of making your target is much higher if you invest with us that way. And that's true. It is a higher probability, but it's also a higher probability of losing your shirt because you're investing at risk, at significant risk. You're not being told really about that. And then you're also paying fees to boot. So that whole bait and switch is not what economics recommends or suggests. I'm a little bit conflicted here because I have a personal financial planning software company. We have a tool called Maxify.com, which doesn't ask people to target for ridiculous amounts, but rather figures out, hey, here's your resources. You told us you got these resources. We're going to figure out a smooth path to your living standard, and then we're going to figure out how to maximize that, how to raise that safely by handling Social Security correctly, by handling your retirement accounts, timing those so you don't pay too much in taxes. So there are ways to actually provide good advice, but that's my concern, bad advice.
All right, so you heard it right here. Mr. Kotlikoff says Wall Street may be misleading investors. Laurence, I don't know. I think our viewers are going to have a tough time believing that one. That's a real stretch of the imagination. So, and one of the ways they really mislead investors, I believe, is when it talks about systematic withdrawals from mutual funds, not even trying to take your income from dividends and interest. Literally, the fact you can leave your money in a 401k, you can take systematic withdrawals. I believe that's one of the biggest retirement cancers that exist. But before we have to take another commercial break, let's get to the Social Security topic. In the 60 seconds we have left in this segment, please tell our income generation members what you think is probably the highest probability option of how the government can fix Social Security to make it a long-term viable income benefit for our viewers.
Well, the problem is the politicians have been ducking Social Security's long finances. I mentioned it's $34 trillion in the red. That's enormous. Our gross domestic product's only $20 trillion. The rest of the financial enterprise is in even worse shape. So the rest of the system cannot bail out Social Security. So the best thing to do would be to freeze the current system in place, pay off through time everything that's owed to the current workers and keep paying the current retirees, but put in a new system where everybody contributes 10% into a fund. It's a common fund. Everybody gets the same return.
So essentially, Laurence, what you're referring to is just like when a company frees a pension and replaces it with another. Laurence, stay with us. We need to take a commercial break. You stay with us too. We'll be right back on the income generation. Right now, it's time to welcome back Laurence Kotlikoff. Okay, Laurence, so I get it. Right before the commercial break, you said the best way to reform Social Security is probably to freeze the benefits, pay it off to existing recipients, and start a new program with new schedules of benefits, maybe new tax levels for new people. So let's say you're one of the existing recipients right now, and you need to choose how to maximize your Social Security. What are the two biggest mistakes that you see people making when it comes to making Social Security decisions?
Well, it's really complicated. You need to understand that the enormous payoff from being patient and waiting to take your benefits just until 70, which is the case for many people, not everybody. And there's some people right now who can file who are about 64 in 9 months to about 66 or 67 or so, 68, who can make up to about $67,000 for free by getting a free spousal benefit if they, run the software and see that that's the thing to do. So, it's very, very complicated. The best run sophisticated software that's focused on trying to help you, that doesn't have any conflicts of interest, is just giving advice, not trying to get you into buying some security at the end of the interaction. So my company certainly has that kind of software. We have a tool called MaximizeMySocialSecurity.com.
Okay.
So
one thing, so just so I understand, one thing is taking Social Security too early. I know you said in many cases waiting is a big thing. So let me ask you then, this benefit of being able, for those people that are within that 64 to 66 range, you're saying they could actually take spousal benefits early, if I'm understanding you correctly. And if so, tell us more about that.
Okay, so let's say I've got a 62-year-old wife and I'm 66. I could, because I've been grandfathered under the old law, my wife could take her benefit early at 62. I could collect a spousal benefit for 4 years. She could then, at 70, I'll get my highest retirement benefit. So I'm getting free spousal benefits, half of her retirement benefit. But then at 66, she can suspend her benefit, start it up again at 70 at a 30% higher number. So that would be a strategy for the two of us to maximize our lifetime benefits. And I'm
Yeah,
you know, again,
that's a great strategy, Lawrence, because people don't think about that. They think about, oh, I'm the highest breadwinner. I've got to take it first. My spouse takes the spousal benefit. But you're saying by flipping it, you get some extra benefit short term, and then you could flip it back. 30 seconds or less. What's one other gem that people need to know about Social Security and how to maximize it?
Well, for example, if you're taking your widow's benefit and you have your own retirement benefit, you have to decide which benefit to take first, or you know, and which to take second. So if you took both at once, you would potentially lose one of the two benefits. But if you take, for example, you know, so here again, it's tricky whether to take one or the other, which one to take first. But you can certainly make a lot more money by taking them in a staggered manner, and you have to figure out which one that requires software. There's no way around that. And then you got to ask, is the person selling you software, the company, do they have an ulterior motive? You know, is it Fidelity Investments? They're trying to sell you some mutual fund investment. At the same time, they're telling you about Social Security. Is it T. Rowe Price? All these companies are conflicted. ARP has a free tool that's worthless, gives you terrible advice, and
well,
they're trying to.
The old saying, you get what you pay for, right?
Well, it's yeah, and even when you do pay, you got to be careful giving you just advice, or whether they also are hooked up with some company. They're trying to change the advice to help that company sell you something at the end of your interaction.
It always helps to be a little bit skeptical. I agree completely.
Lawrence,
Lawrence, thank you very much for being with us today. I really appreciate it. We need to leave it there for now.